Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday night. We are here to talk about some more movies. Our good fashion movie review show. This might be the last show under this format. I'll get a little bit more into that towards the end of the show, but something that won't change is the people who are on the show are good reviewers who are here once again joining us on a Monday night. We have Mr. Rob Model and Rick Aragon who's back with us again Monday night. How many times we've done this now? Is this like gotta be like what, week 5, 6? I feel like it's been a while, hasn't it?
I have no
7 or 8,
idea.
I think, because I've been to the movies more this summer than any other summer in memory. That's for sure.
How you guys doing today? Let's go ahead and introduce you guys.
Oh, pretty good. Just hanging in there.
I know Rick had a little bad battle with the cough bug, so I'm glad to see that you're back with us once again. You survived.
Yes, I am still alive.
Very much for you guys. So yeah, we're here tonight to talk about a couple of very interesting movies that came out this week. We talked here to talk about Bullet Train and They Them, the movie. But before I get into that one, I did want to talk about one movie that I know Rob watched, but I'm not sure if Rick saw this one this week. It was the movie Prey. Did you get a chance to see that one?
Nope.
So
No, I didn't get to see it either. I planned on watching it yesterday, but I didn't get to it because I was busy watching other movies.
Oh, I mean, it just blew over in our opener there. So just blame Rob for that one. So
My bad.
no, I mean, I saw the film over the weekend. Obviously, it's not one of the ones we were scheduled to watch tonight, but I saw it. It's a decent Predator movie. I wouldn't go any further or any below that one. It's all right for the most part, but I think there was a lot of people online that were kind of overselling it, saying that it was the greatest Predator movie that they ever saw. I saw some outlets even go as far as call it a masterpiece, and that's like it's a movie that 21st Century Fox put on Hulu because they knew that it would bomb in theaters. Like, let's calm down just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the annoying hyperbole surrounding it, so yeah, that's more just like the effusive praise for it. But I'm looking forward to it just because I doubt that it's a 5 out of 5, or that it, like some people said, that it's better than the first Predator. I really can't imagine that's true, but yeah, I will give it a fair shot and check it out. But yeah, some people have been really annoying and at how much they're praising the movie.
I think it'll probably be better than was it Alien versus Predator, whatever the second part was.
Yeah,
both of them. Both of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll probably be better than that.
Yeah, it's only decent in the sense that, you know, there's nothing in there you can really point out to be like, oh wow, this like really sucks. It's just like one of those movies that just pretty much coasts with one tone throughout. Which, I mean, you have to be honest with yourselves. And I mean, there hasn't been that many great Predator movies outside of, you can argue, like the first two, but then everything after that has been kind of like downward. Like, we compare it with the Terminator franchise. Like, yeah, the first two movies were great, but then everything else after that, it's just been a fucking downward spiral for like 30 years. So it's almost the same thing with the Predator franchise. I mean, I can say this: it's better than the one that Olivia Munn torpedoed years ago. That one that came out that they tried to be like a comedy, and it was just bad.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, so it was the one directed by Shane Black, and Olivia Munn outstayed that Black had a child predator working on the set of the movie, like the week that it came out, like while they were doing like their interviews about it. So people were all like, "Wait, you had a fucking pedophile working on the movie? Like, that's not a good look." So yeah, but it did not only that, but the film itself was absolutely horrible too. So that didn't help matters at all.
Didn't she do some weird PR too leading up to the movie's like release, where she was just like, I can't believe I was put in this position, like she made the whole story about herself.
Yeah,
it was very weird.
And I think even like her co-stars like kind of shunned her like that week too, because everything just became about the controversies about the movie and not the movie itself. So needless to say, people weren't very happy about that, and she hasn't really done anything major since then, which I can imagine maybe the studio wasn't too happy about that either. But
yeah,
last I heard, she's supposed to be starring in some kind of a Walking Dead spinoff. So take that for what you will. Of how the mighty have fallen. I didn't even know she was like 42 years old. Anybody else know she was 42 already?
No.
Okay, well, maybe that's just me. I'm going to give a quick couple of shout outs to the guys in the chat right now. We got Duke Nukem in the chat joining us again. Osnot, who joined us over Saturday night when we were watching Tough Turf, 1985 film. We had a good time watching that one as well. So, yeah, I mean, we pretty much want to just go ahead and get into it. And of course, our good friend Cole Classic Cage joins us right as I mentioned Oz. So there you go, Oz. She could even let you have your moment of shine for 1 second without immediately undercutting you. So, but right off the bat, I think we should just get right into it and talk about, I guess, the biggest film that was released this weekend, which was Bullet Train. And with this film, there was so much hype going into it because let's be honest, this has been a very, very lackluster summer overall. Like there really hasn't just been anything. Like obviously, I think was it Top Gun Maverick is the only film so far that's grossed over $1 billion worldwide. Like the only film so far this year that's grossed $1 billion, and that was released back in May. So your only two big summer releases you've had this year was Thor 4, which obviously went down the toilet pretty fast. I'm not even sure if it's even broke even yet, or maybe it just barely broke even at this point. And then the other one is this film with Brad Pitt. It's got a lot of play in the marketing. You know, it has a big ensemble cast that we're going to talk about. But before I get started, before I say anything else about the film, for you two who have watched it, I have to ask you. Joey King, who is one of the stars of this movie, I just have to ask you guys straight up before we get started: is she the worst actress ever? Because I just think to myself, everything that I've seen her in has been awful. Like there literally has not been one decent film I've seen her in up to this point, and she's usually one of the worst parts of it. Is she the worst actress ever?
Well, if she's a good actress, it's not in the action movie variety. You know, she's not very good in these like action movies that sort of are over stylized, or depend. I guess on The Princess, it was definitely like there wasn't enough style to it. But where we're supposed to believe that she's a capable fighter of some kind, it's just like I can't really buy it. It's I guess like Nick Jr., right? Nickelodeon Nick Jr. It's like Kill Bill Jr. It's like this little miniature variety of
like Nick Jr. made by like Paramount.
She's trying to be this copy of a thing that's already been done much better, and it just comes out really lame and contrived. So she might be a good actress down the road, but it's not going to be in this kind of movie.
Well, I can say I don't know her filmography. So I'm no judge as to whether
Booth 1, Kissing Booth 2, Kissing Booth 3.
No.
She was in this really hilariously awful film called Wish Upon years ago, which is a movie that was so bad. It was supposed to be a horror film, but it turned into a comedy, and it was not supposed to be a comedy whatsoever. So it actually was like one of my favorite movies from that year because it was so bad that it was actually good. So that's the only thing I can recommend that I've ever seen her in.
Nope. Never seen any of those, so I have no idea who she is.
Yeah. Well, she's one of the characters in this film, so let's go ahead and kind of go through the setup of this movie. So Brad Pitt plays a character with the code name Ladybug. You notice there's been a lot of like assassin movies recently, because then we just watched the one with Ryan Gosling just a couple of weeks ago, so it almost seems like there's a trend of these type of films now. But so he plays the code name Ladybug, who's supposed to be taking an assignment for a assassin who I guess called in sick. He had like a stomach thing. That's the running joke of the film, right? So his only job is to go on this train, collect a briefcase, and walk off the train. Very simple and easy mission, right? You would think that would be the mission, but apparently unannounced to Brad Pitt that the train is full of contract killers who also want this briefcase. So you have several other characters that are on this train with their own agendas. You have Eric Taylor Johnson, who's in the film with his quote unquote twin brother, played by Brian Taylor Henry. There are a bunch of British assassins who are there to escort the son of a guy called the what was it called? The White Death.
White Death, I think.
White Death, yes.
The White Death. So they're bringing in the son of this Russian, mob boss contract killer, whatever the case is, to bring him to the last station with the money. But of course, things go wrong. You also have this little girl played by Joey King, who's just mysteriously there. No one really knows what her motives is, but she has her own plan, especially with a Japanese assassin whose son is in the hospital after he jumped off of a building. I think that was was pushed off, right? He was pushed off a building, but he's still alive somehow. But that won't be the case if the Japanese has to do everything that you said. So the whole point of the film is that they're trying to get this briefcase. Everyone is outgunning for each other, and there's a bunch of other subplots that are putting this whole story together. I just wanted to go off what you guys thought of just the characters from this film, because there was a couple of takes I had with this movie when I just look at the characters. I felt like I'm gonna ask you guys if you guys felt the same way. I felt like they were trying to do their best impression of a Guy Ritchie movie. Like, I know if you've seen his latest one, which I believe was The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey and Charlie Hunnam from a couple of years ago. This movie
he did a more recent one that came out last year that I actually liked.
Was The Wrath of Man.
Wrath of Man, yeah, because it deviated, but no, yeah, this very much is like a lot of his movies.
Yeah, so the thing with this one is that I know they were trying to get that likability and the charm from a lot of these characters, but no one really had that likability from anyone that I could think of. There wasn't really like that one character that you kind of rooted for, or you kind of liked. Everyone was just kind of like annoying, slightly irritating throughout the course of the film. So I'll let you guys take it. Like, what did you think of just the characters of this movie and how they were?
Yeah, I was mostly annoyed. I was just there wasn't anybody I honestly connected to. They all had different backstories, and I guess that that acted more like a busy sort of keep us occupied while not much makes up this movie. I really felt like it was just kind of filling in the gaps of that 2-hour runtime. And I had a really hard time, honestly, connecting with anybody or finding anyone to root for. Even in that kind of like tongue-in-cheek, we all know we're assassins and quote unquote bad people. You know, and trying to stay alive, basically. So yeah, I had some issues. I think Brad Pitt is supposed to be the guy we're following, and all the way to the end, but he doesn't really have much to do except kind of like fight the other assassins and escape with his life.
Well, I've never seen one of those Guy Ritchie films. I've seen the Sherlock Holmes movies, which I hated, but I get enough of the style.
Yeah,
and that is exactly what I thought. Even though I've never seen it, I said this is like someone trying to do a Guy Ritchie movie with a little bit of Quentin Tarantino in the way that they speak. What I found is a lot of the movie, a lot of the characters I found smug, dumb, really pointless. I mean, you have a couple of appearances, a couple of cameos that I thought were just pointless and just there, I guess, to show how much fun all these stars were having.
Yeah.
You had Bad Bunny in there, and I guess he was just there to show, oh, hey, I can be in a movie. And I didn't know who the Hornet was. I didn't. I found a lot of the characters really stereotypical. You have the assassin who's found inner peace. That's Brad Pitt. You find these two cockneys who are twins. Obviously, the joke is that they look nothing alike.
Yeah.
And you have the little girl who's dressed up like a little girl in pink and everything, but she's really a major assassin. And then I just found a lot of these characters a lot of cliched and dumb and pointless. And like I've said many times, mindless is fine. Brainless is not. And this was brainless. Because there were certain points where I just said, no, I'm not believing any of this. And you have one character, the Hornet. I guess her big thing is that she says bitch at the end of every sentence. And that was it. That was her big shtick.
Yeah.
With one scene. That's all she did. Just try to stab people and just say bitch at every end. So why? This was fun. I'll give credit though to the Son, because of course he doesn't have a name, the Son, only because I did not realize that was Logan Lerman.
Oh yeah, when I first saw it, I thought to myself, "Is that Dylan O'Brien?" Because we had just saw him in the Not Okay movie. It's like, no, it's the other short-haired one.
But even the bleeding of the orifices, like even something that could be interesting, like, it's done so poorly and so thoughtlessly. And it's like, and then I look at things like the budget that had over an $80 million budget, and I'm like, again, where is that on the screen? because you don't get a lot of like shots of the exterior or get the feeling like it's a real train. It's a soundstage.
Yeah, so the whole movie was done in a soundstage in Los Angeles. So
Yeah.
essentially, you have a lot of CGI and a lot of blue screening that make it look like that they're all traveling in Japan. And we'll definitely get to some of the special effects, especially towards the end, where I think the whole movie just kind of completely falls apart. But let's start with the main character of Ladybug, played by Brad Pitt. His character is essentially he's an assassin, but he's looking for a new sense of zen in his life. He's like one of those, oh, I just read that, this book says that, you have to control your inner spirit. And like, he's one of those type of guys, like the man bun, like Army and Fitch looking dudes. And the running gag with him is that, he walks into a situation because his luck is so bad that he runs into an assassin, and assassin immediately wants to murder him because the old running gag with the film is that everyone thinks that he's like the killer that murdered their family, and he's not the guy. Like, he's basically like the wrong guy in like every situation. But because the first thing that everyone does when they see him is try to kill him, he never gets a chance to like explain to him. It's like, hey, I'm not the guy that you're looking for. But of course, he ends up killing people across the way. What did you kind of think of? Because Brad Pitt is the guy that's carrying this whole film. Like, what did you think of Pitt's performance in this movie?
I mean, it's played up for comic appeal, like the wrong. Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about how Alfred Hitchcock, on I think it might have been Saturday, how Alfred Hitchcock concocted an entire career around the wrong man, and it's sort of the same concept. He's a waiter, I think, at a wedding that this terrible event takes place, and so they think that he's this guy, and really he just happened to be at that same event as the assassin. So, I mean, Brad Pitt's fine. I didn't think he was given a whole lot to really work with, but he's an able, charismatic performer. I just didn't think that there was a whole lot to really run on for him. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the movie he won an Academy Award for, whether we give a shit at all about the Oscars still or not, that gave him a really, even though he's more of a star than a great actor, that gave him a lot to chew on, where there's not a whole lot for him to do here, even though it said he did like 90% of his own stunts. So, I mean, I guess that's something.
Yeah, but then again, it sounds like the stunts he was doing in the film were like absolutely like crazy or anything like that. Like, it was mostly just like hand to hand type stuff. So
exactly.
Well, yeah, I don't think there was enough to show whether he was a good actor in this particular movie. Yeah, he was just a star, and I think he was just there because it sounded like a lot of fun. He got to hang out with people that he's worked in another movie this year. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. And yeah, just to show that what in his late 50s, I think, he could still do a lot of action stunts, and it's a cliched character, the assassin who finds inner peace and wants to meet, meditate and have peaceful conflict resolutions. I mean, that's I think we've seen that before. This isn't anything special from him. I wasn't impressed. I wouldn't mind if he got thrown off the train. I'll just put it that way.
And just the movie ended right there at that point. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So one thing with this film is that over the last, I guess you could say, 10 years now, we've seen a lot of these type of like John Wick like clones. Now, obviously, the director here is David Lynch, David Leitch, who someone said David Lynch. He's the guy who directed the original John Wick. So when you look at this film, you can see a lot of those inspirations from that original John Wick movie, and the style, a little bit of the cinematography wise with the colors and stuff like that, and then obviously with the hand-to-hand combat and the violence, a lot of that is played up from the original John Wick. The thing is that we've seen this so many times over the last few years, like even the John Wick franchise itself is starting to get played out, because I thought that they were going to wrap things up at 3. Now here we are at 4, and they're talking about doing a 5, and it's like, okay, now you guys are just overstayed your welcome already. Like, what did you guys kind of think of just the action style of this film? Did you think that we've seen it a little too much, or were you impressed by it?
I actually didn't think. I mean, I'm surprised that it's the same director as John Wick, because I saw it was the same director as Deadpool 2. And so I think this movie has more in common with Deadpool 2 than John Wick. Because while maybe it is the same director, I didn't feel like the fights choreography was anywhere near the par of John Wick, which kept me, it's a movie that really keeps me interested from start to finish. Deadpool, the Deadpool series, and especially Deadpool 2, has a lot of that sort of like self-aware, jokey humor that bogs down the movie, and I felt like that was felt a lot here. So the fighting style was not something I noticed or was impressed with, and kind of just floated by for me. It wasn't something that because I came into this movie with relatively low expectations. I was looking forward to, a kind of action, kind of simple plot,
like an action
August
popcorn film.
blockbuster movie, exactly. And I didn't feel like I even got that. So I felt like the action was largely underwhelming.
Well, it was very colorful for me, but not in a good way. I mean, it was just very impressed with itself, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of action scenes where you see a lot of movement, but you don't see what actually is going on. I had that issue when he's fighting the wolf, because I was like, okay, just you know, throwing everything.
I will say this too, just to that point, real quick, before I let you finish, is that
Mhm.
I think with John Wick, one thing that we've definitely seen is that the action has definitely been sped up a lot because we're still kind of in like that Matrix type thing where if the action is kind of fast, it means that it's more impressive. Where if you're trying to sell like brutal action, as we see, like slowing things down and like actually showing like the impact of like
Right.
strikes and things of that nature, like it has more a much better impact of selling the action rather than having jump cut to jump cut to jump cut, where it's like, oh, I grabbed somebody's hand, oh, we blocked and stuff like that. So
Yeah, so I really wasn't impressed with the action. I mean, the most action that I remember is when he punches that little anime character that just kind of wanders
Oh,
around.
yeah,
that's in the costume or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty much it. And other moments are like when he's like flying across the train, and it's like
yeah.
that just was
We'll,
dumb.
we'll definitely get to that because
Yeah.
yeah, we need to talk about that. And then, real quick, another note is that obviously it becomes a twist like later on that there's an additional killer and they're using like the suit or whatnot. And that's like I thought
Mhm.
the additional character was going to be like one of the conductors that were on the train because they kind of teased it a little bit and then just turned out to be like a red herring. Like they didn't even go back to it like later on. So I felt like that was a bit disappointing, all things considered. But
A waste of Hito. A waste of Hito.
so when you look at this film, the central problem with this film is the writing and the screenwriter for this film is, I want to say his name right, Zach Ulrich, I believe his name is. And this is something that I figured out after I watched this movie. This guy literally only has one writing credit on his entire IMDb resume before this. He did, I guess, one of the miniseries for Fear Street on Netflix,
Okay.
and that's literally his only thing that's on his writing credit at all. That he's not like a producer on a bunch of other projects. Like he doesn't have like anything else on his resume outside of this film, Bullet Train. And I'm thinking to myself, how does he get how did he get put himself in a position where he's doing like a major summer movie with Brad Pitt, essentially only having one writing credit to his name? And then you can tell just by the quality of the writing and the dialogue that yeah, this is done by someone who's clearly not experienced in either one of these two. Like obviously you guys didn't know that beforehand, but did you guys feel like the writing was a major problem for this film?
Well, it's just a situation. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, it's a bunch of assassins on a train, and the guy, you know, their boss is like wants to kill them.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the whole plot is a Usual Suspects ripoff put in one location. And so, I mean, like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Just felt like, okay, that's what they're doing, and we're headed towards this conclusion. There's these little pit stops along the way, and yeah, but there's not much of a movie here whatsoever, and they try to like shoot around this fact with lots of quick cuts and zooms, and moving with the fighting and the action, but it
Yeah.
really is just a distraction that like there's nothing there.
Or you have that you have moments where you have to plug more into the movie, like that long pointless montage of how many people the twins killed,
Yeah.
and where they have to address us directly into the camera. Again, that just I just thought that was so smug, and oh, aren't we clever, and aren't we funny? I was not impressed. I am surprised that this is his only credit, and that anyone, regardless of how much pull this screenwriter may have with the production company or with any of the stars, who knows? Maybe he and Channing Tatum had a little thing there, because apparently that's a big thing.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know why you would trust someone with that small amount of writing history with something as big as Bullet Train. This is supposed
Yeah.
to be a very big film, supposed to be a summer action release, and you're trusting someone who has one screen credit. That I don't understand why they would have that much
Yeah.
confidence in someone.
Yeah, because this isn't like like a BJ Novak, because we reviewed his film last week. This isn't someone who's has experience in writing TV. It just doesn't have like experience writing like feature films and like trying to cross over. This is someone who literally has only done one thing in his entire career. It was a Netflix movie that I don't even know how many people have actually seen, because who has any numbers on Netflix whatsoever? So yeah, there's definitely something going on here. Like I said, the budget being $90 million, then you write a screenwriter with essentially no experience. There's definitely some funny business going on with this film. But I want to talk about the brothers real quick, because they're clearly portrayed in this film to be like the likable assassins. Like they obviously wanted to prop these two up to be like, oh, these are the two that the audience are going to be rooting for. So they're bickering and bantering and whatnot. This is what I had to think. So Aaron Taylor Johnson is actually British. Like he's actually like from there. He speaks with like a real British accent. And then obviously the black guy is American, but he was doing a British accent in this film as well. How can they both be bad at British accents, especially when one of the guys is actually British? Like that makes no sense to me, like whatsoever. Like it felt like he was doing like someone doing like an American doing like a mocking like Cockney accent throughout the entire film. Like what was going on there?
Yeah, I mean, look, they pretty much annoyed me, and it's what I tweeted when I was watching it. I know I shouldn't be doing that in the movie theater, but
No.
I just say I hate Abbott and Costello routines in my action movies, meaning
Yeah.
that like I don't want this jokey banter back and forth where it's like they're foolish, but they're also killers,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I get that it goes back. This goes all the way back to, and I'm sure it precedes this, but it goes back to the popularization of Pulp Fiction and everybody thinking they can do a tongue-in-cheek violent crime movie. And it's like most people don't have the sensibility for it at all. Or rather,
Yeah.
I tend to not like when most people try to do that. And this movie, it felt incredibly weakened and drugged down by their constant banter and their putting them basically directly in the plot. And it's like these foolish idiots drop from on high into
Yeah.
the main story. So yeah, they mostly just annoyed me. And I I don't. I mean, maybe they're just supposed to be Cockney accents, and Aaron Taylor Johnson isn't. He's more posh or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Rick, before I let you go, I'm surprised that you made like no reference to the entire weekend about the running gag of the Thomas the Tank Engine, because I figured that that would be one that would drive you completely up the wall with the whole references to
Yeah.
Thomas. Yeah. So was that not your favorite thing in the film?
Oof,
Well, there's
I
so
don't.
much. There's
Oh,
so much
sorry.
dumb shit like that. So I mean, it's hard to just latch onto one thing because there's a bunch of stuff that they threw at the wall. So anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead, Rick.
No, excuse me. I don't get what the big deal is about Thomas the Tank Engine. And look, of course, the whole gag is that we're supposed to believe they're twins and that they're related, when obviously they look nothing alike. They don't sound alike. But it's again cliched that you're going to have these two bickering assassins, and of course they're going to bicker so much that they're going to leave the target completely unprotected. And I
Hmm.
already knew that as soon as both of them left the sun alone, that when they came back, the son would be dead. I already knew that. It
Yeah.
wasn't a surprise. That whole but that I hated them pretty much from the get go. But what really sealed it for me was that again that long montage where we have to figure out how many people they actually killed 14, 15, or 17, or however many. Because again,
Mm.
I hate it when they address the camera directly. I
Yep.
hate it when they're trying to pass themselves off as clever. As for whether Aaron Taylor Johnson, why he failed at a British accent, I think it wasn't so much a British accent. He was trying to be kind of a Cockney that wandered off a Guy Ritchie movie, like I'm assuming Snatch or Rock and
Mm-hmm.
Rolla or something like that. He was trying for that, and there are some actors, even if they're British, who can't do every British accent or Scottish or Welsh, just like there are a lot of American accents who couldn't do a Southern accent or someone from Minnesota. So we can't put it down to the fact that he's British automatically he can sound like someone from the East End. He won't. And for Henry Brian was it Brian Tyree Henry, I just figured, oh, he probably figured this is going to be fun to do something, to be in kind of a snatch knockoff, and he just went with it. But again, we're supposed to believe that these two care about each other, but I found them more that they would annoy each other, especially. And I didn't care about for the Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't know what Lemon and Tangerine. I mean, what's Lemon, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
named after a fruit. I was like, oh, who cares? These are dumb code names. All of them are supposed to be funny code names, I guess. But what was so funny about lemon and tangerine? All I could think of every time someone said lemon, all I could hear was the U2 song playing in my head.
Yeah,
I like how
I think
it just
because they're part of the same fruit family. By the way, that's the whole thing.
yeah, it's like it was weird because the whole like joke was that everyone just thought of like the fruit, and he kept getting like upset as if like there was supposed to be like another reference that people immediately think of when you say the word lemon. It's like yeah, you say it, feel like people just assume that you're talking about the fruit. I think the fundamental problem here is like we said, we don't have an experienced writer on this project, and what he tried to do is that, and this is something that you can't do when you're not experienced. It's like you had an action movie and then you had a comedy movie, right? Now, so some people are good at action, some people are good at comedy, but usually you have to have a little bit of work in between both of those before you can try to like blend them in together. And this guy, like right out the bat, tried to be like, "Oh no, we're gonna do a funny action comedy that doesn't really have that much action when you really look down on it." And then the comedy is just absolutely bad. Like I would see one of the cameos in this film is Channing Tatum, who just shows up on the train for no reason, and then he's like keep playing like this gay joke like over and over again. It's like, okay, that's funny for like one like passing line, but then they like keep going back to it over and over again. And it's like you're running it into the ground. Like you don't know when to get the laugh and just like move on to like the next bit. Like they have to keep replaying it over and over and over again. And that just shows me a guy who doesn't quite understand the graphs of either genre he's trying to put together in this film.
The lady behind me kept laughing every time that Channing Tatum came on screen, and he comes on screen 4 or 5 times with these little like gay joke bits, and it's like
is this the sex part?
Yeah,
Is this
and
the
it's
sex
just
part?
and it's just like really this is like, and I was trying not to get annoyed at the other moviegoer because it's like, hey, if they're enjoying it, good for them. That's that's part of the movie going experience. But it's just like, really you're gonna tell the same joke 5 times throughout a 2-hour runtime movie. Okay, you've just annoyed the shit out of me.
What's strange is that this isn't the first time that Channing Tatum has kind of been on like he's allegedly gay thing. It reminded me of the movie This Is the End, where I think at
Oh
the end of
yeah,
the world he became the sex slave to Danny McBride.
yeah,
And so again, I don't know why he would do that. Also, the fact that Channing Tatum can't act, he just he cannot act. The only thing he can
no,
do is take his clothes off to music. That is the extent of his talent.
Yep.
And I don't know why people have pushed him into being a star or an actor. But it's nice to see that we're getting a Lost City reunion of sorts. Not
yeah.
to give too much away.
Well, I guess to defend and kind of slam Channing Tatum a little bit, he's been in 2 movies I've seen so far this year. Dog, which was actually not that bad of a film, and then he was on that one with Sandra Bullock, The Lost Island
The Lost
of
City.
something. the Lost City. That one was absolute garbage, but yeah, I can't really claim for them. So I don't know. I feel like when if you could put him in a slightly like more serious role where he's just not being like a yuck like cartoon throughout, he's a lot better served. But when you try to put him in like comedy movies like the Sandra Bullock one, and just like he gets exposed very very quickly in that one.
He's been exposed quite often, I understand.
Yeah, that's just the thing, and apparently they're going to be doing another one of those because why the hell not, right?
Yes, that
But
is the extent of his talent.
yeah. By the way, just a real quick off topic. Did you guys hear that like him and what's the girl's name from God, what's her name? It's like something Newton, like Tiny Newton, or the chick who was in a Mission Impossible 2. I can never remember her first name because it's so fucking weird. Anyway, so they were apparently working on a movie earlier this year, and then they got into a fight over the Will Smith and Chris Rock slapping incident, to
Oh
where
yeah,
it got so
yeah, that's
heated
right.
that she left like the film because he refused to work with her.
Hmm.
Because yeah, so it's one of those type of things. So it's fast forward here to the ending because I feel where everything fell apart. Like up to this point, there's a lot of things you can nitpick, but it wasn't a terrible movie. But the where everything fell apart was when they introduced the identity of the White Death, and it turned out to be Michael Shannon, right? And when they make this reveal, everything in this film goes from like an annoying sitcom to like a straight up cartoon. Because the last like 20 minutes of this film is like of them trying to fight like a bunch of like ninja assassins on a train, and then all of a sudden they're just like flying around in like zero gravity, and then there's like the train crashes and it goes through like all these like towns, and somehow everyone's completely fine. They're able to walk away. So it's like everyone, including Zoe King, can survive a massive train wreck. Like everything just completely fell apart towards the ending of this film. Let's say all of its bad habits got exposed in the third act. Am I being a little too hard, or am I on the money on this one?
No, I mean this is like, and again, like I've said this about a few movies that have come out this year. One of them was like that Nicolas Cage movie, the what is it, the massive weight of
Uh, Unbearable Talent, yeah,
unbearable. Like they're like these are post movies. Like it's like they don't care about making
yeah,
a work of entertainment. They don't care about the audience in that way. They want they exist as content. It seems like they
hmm
exist as filler, as things that just I don't know why you would be interested in creating this, because they don't mean anything. They don't they have no stakes, so they're the movies themselves don't take themselves seriously, so why should an audience? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying you can't be fun or have a good time or like want escapism. All of that's fine, but just care about what you're doing. None of these movies just feel so empty, and just like you ask yourself, what's the point? Like why why did I do this to myself?
hmm
And I just feel like they used to care, even if they knew they were making entertainment.
The the reason they made them is to show how much fun Brad Pitt and Aaron Taylor Johnson and Sandra Bullock and all of the and Channing Tatum and Michael Shannon can have making a movie. You could even have a good you could even have a good time just showing Ryan Reynolds in a movie. Apparently,
yeah,
that's just the fun of it. Jacob, you're too generous. I thought this movie was just there was no redeeming it when Aaron Taylor Johnson manages to hang on to the back of a bullet train and smash his way in. All right. At
yeah.
that point, I just said no. You would have fallen off almost immediately. You would
Yeah,
not have
well, to
lasted
be
that long.
fair, they both would have fallen off if they had both like were hanging off of a train that was doing like 200 miles an hour. It's like, yeah, you both would have been gone. So,
Yeah. So no, I think it just showed how much that everyone quote is in on the joke, but no, the joke wasn't funny. And as I said, this is the way I put it. Mindless is fine. Brainless is not. Mindless is when you know that this whole thing is silly, but everyone doesn't wink at you and show you how much fun they're having. Brainless is when you do something too idiotic to believe. And I went back to the Fast and Furious movies, where I've defended almost all of them. It wasn't until you got to see, was it a Pontiac Fiero in literal outer space, that I said, no, this is just too stupid. Same thing with the bullet train. I could go with something that's goofy. and that's just there to give Bad Bunny a little movie role, and
Mm,
to show how much fun everyone is having. To have Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock and Brad Pitt all reunite again, and this to show Ryan Reynolds can just smirk, and that's apparently that's all he does nowadays. So, and to show Michael Shannon kind of having his hair flowing all over and showing he could do action scenes. I mean, that would be fine. But when you have to constantly wink at me and tell me, "Oh, look at how much fun we're having," then I just say, "No, I'm not having any fun. I
Yeah.
think this is just brainless. I think this is just a waste of my time."
Mm.
And I would have preferred that everyone on that train just met a grisly end and just ended it, instead of suggesting that everyone, you could walk away from all of this with hardly a scratch. And then when you can have the surviving twin, and it constantly surprises me how many times that guy survived.
yeah.
You know, the surviving twin just be able to knock down another person, like, it just, none of it just makes sense. It's a
That
huge
was another thing,
coincidence.
how it really kind of like robbed the film of like any stakes, because it's like when he died, quote unquote, it's supposed
Mhm.
to be like this big emotional moment. Then it's like 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, he's still around. Like, don't worry, guys, but we're definitely gonna kill off the white guy with the man bun where he's dead. So there you go. And then, real quick sidebar before I'll let you go back, is that I mentioned the film Wish Upon earlier as a film that was so bad that it was actually good. Somebody in Hollywood clearly is getting a kick out of killing Zoe King with using a car, because at the ending of that film, she gets hit by a car, like flies into another car, and it was so out of nowhere, it did like so bad that it was actually funny. But when it happened again at the end of this movie, I audibly groaned, and I was just thought to myself, why was she even in this film? Because she like added absolutely nothing to this movie like whatsoever. Like her entire character's existence is basically like drawing out like the old Japanese man, but it's like literally anyone else could have done that. And it's like why was she even in this film?
Well, she was wasn't she White Death's daughter?
Daughter. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
And
I
he
bet
wanted
she
a
didn't.
son, so her name was the prince. Yeah. Haha.
yeah, right on the nose with that one, right?
Yeah, but yeah, but there was already a son.
So yeah, I gave it a 2, which is probably generous. A
Mm-hmm.
2 out of 5. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed almost nothing about this movie. Um,
Not even Ryan Reynolds. Not even Ryan Reynolds. How dare you, sir?
oh no, no, all that stuff is like marks against it, like because you
Yeah.
couldn't even tell a basic story without making it super gimmicky and tongue in cheek and winking at the camera.
Yeah, especially with the whole like hype behind like the White Death, like, oh, he's the most feared killer ever, and then it's just fucking Michael Shannon. So, yeah, I would go even lower than you. I'd give this a 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah,
The movie definitely, I mean, the ending definitely killed a lot of this film for me. It just kind of made me feel like I wasted my time. There was a lot of stuff, as you guys mentioned, that were out that could have been completely cut out of this film altogether, especially when it's like 2 hours and like 6 minutes long. You didn't need to have like the red herring of, oh, did we kill 16 or 17? Like that meant absolutely nothing. Brad Pitt basically arguing with a cell phone for like 40% of the movie. You could have cut a lot of that stuff out. There wasn't a lot that cared about that one. I mean, if you were going into this suspecting, oh, this is going to be a big budget popcorn flick that is going to be one of the biggest movies of the summer, it's not. It really isn't. You're not missing anything by skipping this one altogether. So,
You
Rick, what
you
would you give this one?
you're both far too generous. I think I would probably give it a 1 or maybe even a 0. I think I think I might actually enjoy watching The Gray Man better. That's how bad it
Well,
was.
no, the Gray Man's definitely a better movie than this. I mean, there's,
Yeah.
yeah,
But this for me was, it was too self-consciously it thought it was funny, and it wasn't.
yeah.
It was dumb. I hated all the cameos. I hated the cliche characters. Um, I didn't care if any of them got killed. It was just for me a waste of my time. I'm glad I only paid like $1.62 to see it, because I used a
Hmm.
lot of gift cards for it. Um, but no, I think I actually hated this more than The Gray Man, and The Gray Man for me was like the worst film of the year. So
Well, you did see Not Okay, right?
I did see Not Okay.
I don't know how you could say the Gray Man was worse than that one. That one was pretty bad.
Yeah, that one I don't know. It had nicer colors. I don't know. It was
Yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, this is just an awful movie all around. Like I said, all the hype that went into it. This is another thing with Hollywood. Is that there's two things with it. It's like one, they still think that they can just like market a movie with like stars and not give you like any real story. Because I'm pretty sure they were thinking, oh, it's Brad Pitt. People are gonna go pay money to go see Brad Pitt, right? So that's all the work they put into it, and this is what we got. And another thing, Hollywood is just not funny. Like you like, especially when you look at like the A-list like crowd, like the Sandra Bullock and like the Brad Pitt. So that crowd is not funny, and they're not going to produce anything that actually genuinely makes you laugh because all of their comedy has to be completely safe. There's no edge to it. There's no sophistication into it. There's really just nothing. They just give you is like, oh, Bad Bunny, he's dead, and he smacks his head on a table, and that's going to make the old grandma behind Rob laugh, and then that's going to be the whole story for the film for 2 hours. It's like you can't do that shit anymore. It's like that whole Will Ferrell era comedy, that shit's been dead for a while, and you guys are still doing it. Like, stop.
well, it's any comfort. I never found Abbott and Costello funny, except for Who's on First.
Mm-hmm.
So there
Yeah,
you go.
we're not missing anything as far as that one goes. So, yeah, that's our review of the Bullet Train movie. Like I said, Rob gave it a 2. I gave it a 1.5, and Rick, I think he in his heart he wants to give this one a 0. So I think we'll just stick with the 0 out of 5. So,
Okay.
well, I could say this though. Was this film better than our next movie? I would probably say yes, kind of by default. But let me preface this by saying this. So obviously, we're talking about the film that I know Spencer was really looking forward to, and it's They Them. Now, for those guys who have no idea what this film is about a couple of months ago, it was announced that Blumhouse and I think it's Universal are coming together to do a movie about an LGBTQ gay conversion camp, and all of the characters, the campers in this film are members in the LGBTQ community in real life, and that was pretty much the whole pitch. Kevin Bacon is in the film to kind of give this film some kind of legitimacy, but that's pretty much the whole story behind this movie. So I'm thinking of this, and I'm probably thinking what a lot of you guys are thinking. Okay, this would probably be the worst movie that I've seen, if not somewhere in the top 3. Right? There's no way this movie can be any good. When I watched the film, I did not hate it up to a certain point, but it got to a point towards the ending, which we'll talk about, where it's like, oh, okay, here's the problem with the entire movie. So let's talk about just the story, the basic story of this film. What I said, it's a gay conversion camp somewhere in the woods. And in the opening scene, they show that there's a slasher somewhere he's killing people. It's like, okay, this is going to be maybe like a gay version of like Jason Voorhees. Like maybe they'll put a little bit of a spin on it and make it entertaining. Well, if you like the killer in that opening scene, you will not see him again for about another hour and 20 minutes into the film. Um, these kids are coming to this camp. They're mostly being forced there by their parents because they want them to pray the gay way, whatever the thing says. And then Kevin Bacon is like, hey, we know what you guys think. You think we're gonna be one of those Bible thumping camps. It's like, hey, we just want you to be who you are. If that is what you want to be towards the end of the day, we're just here to help you and whatnot. So these kids go to this camp, and of course, there's one they them in the camp. You can't just be she's and he's anymore. It has to be like a they. And it's like, oh, you guys don't have a non-binary camp. It's like, no, because we probably don't have too many people who refer to themselves as they in this camp. But as a consolation, we'll let you stay wherever you feel comfortable, right? So essentially, this whole movie is just you experiencing the lives of these individuals. They let you know like, exactly what their issues are. Like you have the jock who who's gay but doesn't want to accept it, so he needs help. You have the lesbian who's a little bit let's just say pent up aggression towards her parents because they don't accept her for the way that she is. You have a few people who are in denial, a few people who are completely satisfied with who they are and whatnot. So the basic premise of this film is that you're just experiencing a camp in the life of these LGBTQ people, but you forget that you're supposed to be watching a horror film that doesn't exactly happen up until like the last like third of the film. But before we get to that point, what did you guys think of just the opening act and kind of the setup and the premise of this movie? Was there things that you had issues with before it got to a certain point? Was this basically fumbled right out of the gate?
I mean, I was just trying to figure out what they were doing because it's like if you're gonna
Mhm.
make a slasher movie that's based on, like these people who identify what I can't even talk about this shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But these people who basically
Yeah.
identify in a different way than most people do, like whatever, okay. And then yeah, it actually I thought the opening wasn't bad with Kevin Bacon kind of being like, hey, we kind of accept you for your, what you care about, and you're not gonna hear about God here. I thought, okay, like what's this guy's game? Like what is
Yeah.
it like what is he doing?
There's
Kind of
definitely going
thing.
to be a catch, right?
So yeah, and so I thought that the setup was relatively like okay, like for what it is, like it's somewhat interesting, and then it just completely falls apart after that, seemingly.
Yeah.
And yeah, Kevin Bacon is there, I guess, to give the movie credibility. But yeah, it's like, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there's this TV show that was on MTV growing up called Undressed, and it was sort
Yeah.
of like an adult show for teens, basically.
Yeah.
It didn't show anything. It wasn't even like softcore porn, but it was just like these stories about just like alternative people and whatever. And that's what this is. It's like a 2 hour version or hour 44 minute version of like an MTV TV show where these kids get to
Hmm.
like talk about their problems and what they're going through, and of course there's the necessary like sex scenes and like give me a so it's just like
Yeah.
it's a whole lot of nothing.
Well, when we started it, first thing I thought is you owe me $5.40.
No, no, no. I want the
Yeah.
record to be known that I offered a free option and you turned it down. So I'll just let the record be known
if
without
it's
going into any more
if
detail.
if it's if it's per, if it's acceptable in the eyes of the law, I'd be happy to take it. We'll put it that way. But
Hmm.
going back to this, uh, when they went, I thought the only thing that was slightly clever was that the voiceover that you hear at the beginning, it turns out to be an audiobook that the
Yeah.
first
Oh
victim
yeah,
is
yeah.
listening to. Apart from that, you did get get a sense that maybe they were trying for what a Friday 13th film is like. And confession, I've never seen a Friday 13th film, but I know enough about the plot and how that
Yeah.
works. You have a you have an obviously creepy groundskeeper who's like so overtly creepy that you think,
Yeah.
what, obviously this guy is either going to be the killer or is going to meet a very grisly end. uh,
Uh-huh.
you have the counselor who is too avuncular, and then you have a whole bunch of stereotypes, and with all the campers. I was puzzled that when when one of the campers, Alexandra, was discovered to be, I guess, born Alexander, and they was like, oh well, you have to be with the boys. I'm going, no, this person would probably stay with the girls
Hmm.
side, because this person identifies as female, although apparently still has a penis. So I was puzzled by that. But you had a lot of stereotypes here with the characters. So you're already starting out, and I made a note that apparently Stewart, the swimmer,
Yeah.
the closeted jock, I said he's probably the most homophobic, and obviously the jock has to be the most homophobic, or as close to homophobic as
Yeah.
one can be while being gay himself, because he doesn't like the rather flamboyant Toby, and he doesn't he doesn't care for for the for the transgender Alexandra. But he does have, but he will break out into a musical number, as all the kids did break out into a big musical number at this point. And for the record,
Oof.
I did not know what that song was. The subtitles
Oof.
helped me discover what that song was.
I think somebody mentioned it. I think Heels versus
Pink.
Baby Faces. Yeah,
Pink.
did a review, said it was Pink. So
Yeah.
that's because I didn't know what the song was either. Like I just heard the song. It's like it sounds like something that a song that gay people will be into. So I guess it's like okay, that's
No,
true.
never heard that song. But um, it really, yeah, it does forget about the fact that they're supposed to be a serial killer, but
Yeah.
then the serial killer is not targeting the kids. The serial killer is, of course,
Yeah,
targeting someone else or something else, shall we say?
we'll get to that in a second. And it wasn't that they forgot. It's like there's a specific reason why they didn't do that. But I want to talk a little bit more just about the campers because they're essentially like the lifeblood of this movie. Because when you're dealing with a slasher film, you kind of have to get like a good understanding of like who your characters are. That way, when they actually do die or get close to death, you actually somewhat care for them. And they kind of establish everyone, like you said, as basically like a stereotype. Like you have like your couple of trans characters, like obviously the one had the issue with being in the wrong bunker and not getting, I guess, their estrogen medication and whatnot, because they lied and said it was anti-anxiety, but it was really their estrogen medication. Then of course you have, I guess, more of your I guess you could say normal gay people, like the jock and there'd be the other girl who's like trying to like suppress their urges, and whether they're lesbian or bisexual, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of pent up anger. One thing that I will give this film credit for, which is kind of surprising given the subject matter, is that they showed a lot of constraint. Not just going like just all in on just like the Christian bashing that you were kind of expecting with a film of this nature, because obviously there's a lot of people in the LGBT community that have a big issue with gay conversion camps because they don't think that they should be converted to being away from who they are and things of that nature. And of course, they blame Christianity and things of that for that. But I felt like for the most part, they tried to keep it at least as straight to the story as they could by saying that, hey, look, it's LGBTQ people here in this film, but we're not going to go to the typical bashing that you probably would normally see in other movies that don't have that type of constraint. But was there any character that you at least somewhat felt was more likable than others? Or were there any characters that just bothers you as far as this movie goes?
I mean, I was really disappointed by the fact that, like, um, that the campers weren't really the targets.
Yeah.
I can't really say that there's any character that I, liked or disliked. I mean, the campers are largely insufferable and kind of cliches and stereotypes, like Rick was saying. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I just watched it too. Like I just watched it before we came on. So, not really. Kevin Bacon, I think, gives an okay performance, but it's really just that kind of initial meeting with the campers, and then he kind of pops up here and there.
Yeah.
Well, I actually liked Kim. She's the one who's lesbian, but she's a feminine lesbian because she knows how to make a pie.
Trad wife.
Apparently,
She's dressed exactly like a trad wife. The trad wife
Yes.
meme. Sorry.
Yeah.
oh, like the what?
Trad wife meme. The blonde girl with the
It's
blue
Zoomer.
dress.
It's Zoomer talk. Rick wouldn't know anything about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, Gen Xer, Gen Xer. Remember?
Fair enough.
So yeah, I liked her, and this Stu was fine, not because I related to his, I guess, he's the closest to the homophobe as you could get here,
Yeah.
but he at least seemed to be like some of the gay people I know who are gay, but they're not into fashion or the prides, or they actually like sports to like sports, not because they like the sports players.
Yeah.
But apart from them, all of them were very kind of insufferable. Like there was the Veronica, the angry bisexual. At one point, Kim says,
Yeah.
"You're so chill." I'm going, "She's hardly chill. She's very wound up and intense." And it would have helped if I knew some of the characters' names. I didn't know who Gabriel was until there was a seduction. late in the film. It's like, really, that's your name? I didn't know who you were. A lot of
Mhm.
these characters were not introduced by name, so I kind of had to guess.
Yeah.
And
Which
some of the characters were
I
also
will push back on that just a little bit. When you're in a traditional slasher film, had this been a traditional slasher film, you probably wouldn't have had to have introduced all the characters because at some point they would have started to die anyway, right?
well,
Yeah.
they didn't quite keep to the traditions because two. I mean, you had two couples that had sex, and only one of them was tortured, not killed.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Yeah, but they're
Uh,
not attractive women, Spencer. Like, you're missing the point. So,
Yeah,
like,
no.
gay guys desire those dudes, whereas most straight men do not desire WNBA players. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just needed to stop and explain. Okay, I'm done.
yes. Again, I'm not well versed in the camp slasher genre, nor am I versed in the gay camp conversion world. So I live a very sheltered life, Rob.
Yeah.
So we'll put it
I
that
mean,
way.
look, I'm clearly not a lesbian, but if there's any lesbians who are watching this video, I'm pretty sure you can answer this question. I don't think you guys watch WNBA and say, "Oh, that chick's hot." Like, I just don't see that as a realistic opinion that people have when watching the WNBA. So I'll just throw that out there.
I mean, maybe they do. I mean, I'm very weird in terms of like the women I find attractive, and there's plenty of like, I'll just put it this way. I'm not even sure I can say that word on here, but there's plenty of women who look like they are gay that I'm attracted
Hmm.
to. So it's just like I'm weird that way, where it's like Tessa Thompson looks like she's bisexual. She probably likes women, and it's like
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be attracted to her, but I can't. Whatever.
Well, I
It
mean,
is what
Tessa
it is.
Thompson is a complete 180 from some of the players that play in the WNBA. I
True.
mean, so
Very
some
true.
of like the 40% of the players that play in the WNBA look like they've done time in the joint. So I'm just putting it
Yeah.
that way. So I don't
Yeah.
think you.
None of those. I don't find any of those women attractive. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I imagine that if they had kept to the traditions, like I said, wouldn't one or both of those couples have met Grizzly Anns? I mean, that's the way. Isn't that the way that it happens in these movies,
Yeah.
where once
Right.
you have sex, you suddenly are killed. They even mention Jason Voorhees, one of them, and the other one says who? Like she doesn't know. So
But
I don't know if that was
and then let me call out Cole Classic Cage on this one point. It's not that the women play defense; they can't shoot. So the
Right.
games usually aren't very high scoring to
It's
begin
like
with.
by default, sure, they play defense because they don't score very much.
Their defense
Okay.
is a lack of offense.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing. This is the central problem that I had with this film because, like I said, I didn't hate it up to a point where I got exposed, and I feel like the whole approach of making this a slasher film was the absolute wrong approach because I feel like if this had been a thriller, like a traditional thriller movie, this probably would have played off a lot better than it ended up doing. Do you guys agree with that? That it was just basically a film that was in the wrong genre.
It had the wrong focus. I mean, if it was going to be a slasher film, then it should have had a lot more like killings or suspense or anxiety like driven into the plot and the narrative. And it just seemed like a platform for these kids to sort of like exercise whatever angst that they're going through. I mean, it felt like a trans and gay teen angst camp movie instead of
Yeah.
like a slasher movie.
it did seem more like a drama where these kids are going to explore uh their gender, their sexual identity, their gender identity, the gender roles that they're supposed to fit, because I don't even think that they know that there's a slasher until they come upon four bodies. And
Yeah.
that's almost at the end. So you can't really call this a slasher movie because the kids don't know. In a more traditional, and I imagine in a more traditional teens camp slasher movie, you would have the kids aware that there's a serial killer out there targeting them specifically. And you had this, I think, also with Scream. Here, you didn't. So this was more like a drama that threw in a slasher at the end, and it even wasn't a slasher where they had to worry about it, where
Well, and
any
it's
of
the
them had
care
to worry,
and
except
it's
for
the
one.
Right, and it's the character who's like, is she an ally or is she one of them? The whole like, the whole movie, and it's
Yeah.
so done. It's dumb. It's done in such a dumb way, and it's like, okay, this is not a movie. Like this is an
Yeah.
opportunity for you to talk about a thing you want to talk about, and that's fine, I guess. But it's
You know what it
terrible.
is? You know what it honestly is? It's like it's a 90-minute first act. Like that's what this film is. It's like it's almost like if this was like a Netflix series, like this would be like maybe arguably the first two episodes of the series before something actually happens, right?
Yeah.
So let's address the elephant of the room here. This is supposed to be a slasher movie, it's supposed to be a horror movie, but as we've said many times, that no one actually dies. And this is the problem with this film, and the reason why this film fundamentally fails as a movie is that you have a bunch of LGBTQ people in the film. Like a lot of the actors are assuming are exactly what they are in this film, but because of what I like to call progressive storytelling, the progressives behind the film, behind the writing and directing, decided that, well, we can't actually kill gay characters and trans characters in this movie because, by their own logic, that would be homophobic and transphobic, right? You can't actually kill a bunch of trans people brutally in the film because that's not how we want to portray these people. So when you put a whole bunch of gay people and trans people in a movie where people are supposed to die, well, then what happens? Well, they just decided they weren't going to kill any of the trans people or gay people in this film. So by the time you get to about the hour and 20-minute point of this movie, where it's just strolling along, you realize, wait, was there supposed to be a killer in this film? Like, how come no one's died up to this point? And you realize, oh yeah, the writers can't kill any of these characters, so they wait until the final act of this film, and then the killer just comes back out of nowhere and starts killing all the camp counselors, right? All of the bigoted camp counselors that just start getting like stabbed up and whatnot. And those are your only kills in the entire film. And then towards the end, all the kids that are a part of this camp, they all just leave like the scene of the camp towards the end. It's like, oh, just go find the police and whatnot. Everyone just leaves at once, and then everyone survives towards the end. You're just kind of like, well, then it's just a waste of time. And that's why I said earlier, it's like this should not have been a slasher film. This should have been a thriller movie that was focused on a mystery, because that way it would have played off a lot better than sitting there waiting for people to die, knowing that those kills were never going to come in the first place. Like, how do you guys think of the way that they just structured this movie by not killing any of the people in there because they didn't want to be labeled bigoted by killing the wrong group of people?
Well, it's a live, laugh, love meme.
Yeah.
It's like, because that's how the movie
Mhm.
ends. It's like, live your best life, and it's just like, okay, like
Yeah.
it's we're not, and it's like, do you think maybe being around a murder is more
Yeah.
traumatic than being trans, or changing your gendered identity or whatever? You know what I mean? And like none that's not really touched on or whatever. So
Yeah.
it just seems like, again, it just seems like an excuse to talk about these social issues using the, like, I don't know, like the old movie aesthetic of the slasher movie. Because like,
Mhm.
even that's the thing. Like, you used to take your girlfriend to, and like she would get scared, and like it would be a not forced intimacy, but it would be like a way to be close together in that kind of environment. And it's just like that. I don't know. It's just a very strange sort of development where this is where the slasher movie is now. That it's like it's
Yeah.
just like it's a
It's like
foil for them to talk about these
they,
issues.
they they set up a lot of things that were very similar to like a Friday the 13th movie, but they didn't want to pull the trigger on like any of the things that would have made it that. Because I mean, look, if this is a real slasher movie, obviously the lesbians, they probably would have been like the first ones gone. The jock probably would have gotten it pretty bad like towards the end. The only people who probably would have like stayed alive would have been the white trans character, then like the overly flamboyant like gay character in the film, who reminded me a lot of like a young Chris Tucker. Don't just tell me why, but just the way that he was acting like throughout the movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, in order to do that, they would have had to commit to the bit of being this is a slasher horror movie. People have to die in order to keep the suspense up throughout the film. But like I said, their ideology just couldn't do that. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I do take somewhat of an issue with the idea of that the that LGBTQ characters weren't murdered. They were just the traitors, shall we say.
Yeah.
There's I guess the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
one traitor is like
yeah,
the only
he
one.
got. And then the camp counselors, if you notice, both of them had to see kind of erotic images of the same sex. The guy had to see like a hot young guy to get sexually excited
Yeah.
with his wife or fiance, who also needed the like a very pretty girl to get her excited. So all the quote, I guess, gay characters who are trying to be straight or who are not allies to the situation, they get slashed, they get killed, as does the camp leader. I don't know, the person who gets killed off at the very beginning. I don't know whether she deserved it or not, because we don't know if she was just going to just work there.
Yeah, I was about to say I can only assume that based on the ending of this film that she was just someone who worked there who got killed, which you think someone would have mentioned that throughout the course of this film
No,
because that woman just got stabbed up and then her kill is not even mentioned throughout like the rest
It's
of this film.
it's mentioned very briefly by what's her face. Like basically I became Molly, I think was her
yeah,
name.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's done very quickly and like throwaway line.
Yeah,
But
but the
yeah,
kids, but the kids who go to the camp, they're not going to be concerned about a killer stalking them. They're going to be more concerned about Balthazar, the creepy
right.
groundskeeper, who
By the way,
also gets
when
killed
he's
off
look
because. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm so sorry, but when he's looking at the video and it's just like so I turned to my roommate and I was like, wait, are those girls? Or
Oh,
and it was just a confusing moment and it was just like wait so if and because that was the other thing I didn't think they made very clear was I assumed that everybody at the camp at the start of the movie was trans or transitioning or whatever, and that's not true. It's like it's only a few of them or whatever, but
Yeah.
and
I think there are
so
only
that
two.
just made the shower scene like, so is he
Well,
checking out
I
girls
think it's the fact
or
that when they started doing gay conversion therapy like way back when like decades ago, like they only had
yeah.
to deal with gay people. So now that they got like trans people, like non-binary people, it doesn't seem like they're well equipped to deal with where this community has gone since the days of just gay
Yeah.
therapy. So
Yeah, but yeah, so so that guy had to be killed off as well because he's obviously creepy. I mean, he looks creepy, he acts creepy, so obviously he's not going to be the killer. So I was not I wasn't I was just wondering why they why there were no stakes. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling because somebody's at the door. But somebody there are no stakes for the campers. They don't know that there's a killer until the very end. And personally, I don't understand what the logic is of, oh yes, you take a whole group of kids down this hill in the dark with no protection, and I'm sure it'll be fine.
yeah,
Even though there's a killer out there, I'm sure that all of you together will be able to defend themselves against someone slashing. All right,
yeah.
all
Well,
right.
go answer your
I'll be
door and
back.
then
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll be
come
back.
back. All right, then. Well, while he goes, answers his door and forgets to mute his mic, all for him. So yeah, look, when you look at the central problem with this film is exactly what I said. They tried to do a slasher movie that couldn't commit to its basic premise of the film, which means that you don't really have a movie. That you remove all the stakes in the film because you're trying to avoid, HuffPo and the Daily Beast writing, bad articles about like your movie, calling you an istaphobe because you can't just put out and say like, hey, look, we did a movie that we thought was going to be pretty good. Like we didn't care what the critics thought and whatnot. And obviously, if you cared that much, you wouldn't have put that dancing scene with Pink's music in there, which apparently, from what I've heard, even like the gay people who saw this film hated that scene. So they clearly would not have picked Pink to do a dance number to.
That
I
seems like
mean,
it was interjected by like a white woman producer who's just
yeah.
like, "Hey, this is what we need," and it was, and even like in the community, it's supposed to represent. It's like, no, we're offended by that you
like
chose to
like
put that in
e-
there.
even that scene was just put in the wrong part of the film. That was like done like early in the film
Yeah,
where it should have been done like later in the film. 'Cause usually you do a scene like that where where there's like a lot of tension behind the group, and then finally they get like that one moment where they kind of like come together and just like have fun and whatnot. But they did that like very early on in the movie to where it just felt completely out of place.
But
Yeah,
don't
I
you
mean,
get it? It's that's because every moment can be like that in the trans community because they're so mentally ill. So that's why I think,
is this a
it's an
big musical
ordinary
number?
moment that they need to not feel so bad.
yeah,
Sorry, I missed it. Is this the big musical number where they all have to sing a song?
Yes.
That's
yeah. The Pink song that everyone hated in this film.
like I never heard of it. I didn't know what that song was. And
Yeah,
no, it's always interesting that in the shot, uh, it starts out with one person singing it, and then obviously it must be like a gay anthem because everyone else sang it, and it wasn't until the jock joined in and slid down the camp floor that we finally have a power anthem.
yeah.
I guess the kids no longer
It
didn't
was
care.
almost like they were trying to have like their Top Gun like singing at the bar moment, and it just didn't come off well at all. I mean, I just have to look. So the guy who wrote this, John Logan, like he's actually done like some decent films. I guess you could say. I mean, at least compared to this one. I mean, this is the guy who like co-wrote like Skyfall and Spectre and like
I hated
Alien
those.
covered it. Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean that goes without saying, but those are the guys who he's written at least something somewhat decent, like an actual film. So it just feels like to me that he was trying to like write around all of these landmines, which is like, dude, if you can't commit to the bit, then there's really no point of doing this film like at all. My final thoughts about this one. I'll let you guys go on with your final thoughts. This was almost a good movie. Like I said, I can't even say that it's terrible in a sense. I would just hate it because if they just tweaked a couple of things, they could have had a decent movie here. Like there could have been a solid movie if they had like changed the tone, changed a little bit of the direction, maybe changed the characters like a little bit. But obviously, politics they couldn't do that. But what they gave us here, which is absolutely nothing, I give this like a 1 out of 5. Like in all honesty, like I said, I the only reason why I didn't hate this film more because I felt like with a few tweaks there could have been something here. They just didn't do anything with it. So that's my thoughts about this film. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, and I'm pretty well aligned with that. Every time, and maybe there's movies I haven't seen that are better, but every time they try to do like the trans issue and make it into kind of like a slasher movie, horror movie kind of
Yeah.
amalgamation, it doesn't seem to work. Now, there's people that really like that Vince Vaughn movie that came out a couple years ago. I can't specifically and
Dragged on concrete or what?
no. It had to do with a similar kind of like where a teenage girl switched bodies with Vince Vaughn, who was like a
Oh,
serial killer, and
yeah, I
even a lot of
remember.
people liked that, which it didn't paint it so on the nose with its sort of trans allegory, but that
Mhm.
kind of like being in a different body, sort of like idea behind, and that's in the narrative, sort of closer
Yeah,
to the end.
it was called Freaky. That's the name of the film you're
Freaky,
talking
yeah,
about.
and
Yeah,
in that was okay, but even that I feel like
yeah,
it tries to push too much on the, trying to represent, the like they them sort of milieu or whatever, and it just this is even like less of a like a recycled idea. It's just like, okay, you have a slasher premise that you don't ever kind of execute except at the very end when it's too late, and
yeah.
everybody's sort of already out of the movie already. So yeah, I gave it a 1 out of 5. It was just kind of like, okay, good job, go away
Mhm.
now.
Well, first, it wasn't worth $5.40. I'm just going to keep harping
I
on
could have
that.
told you that.
Most movies aren't, to be fair.
I'm poor. Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I'll say that the sense I got was that this was not. This might have been marketed as some sort of slasher movie for the LGBTQ community, or one that would involve them. But the sense I got was more that this is a movie about revenge, as not Molly says at the end, where you're going to you're going to punish all the either straight people who want to convert gay people, or the uh, the self-loathing gays who won't who trying to be straight or working against against gay interests, because all the victims happen to be either straight or gay people who are working against other gay people. So I think that was the whole point of this movie, less about trying to be a slasher, a camp slasher movie about gay characters, which would have been an interesting take, I think. But instead, it was more about a weird revenge or punishing movie about punishing people or killing off people who would try to convert you or try to work against the interests. I don't know what the point of it was, and I agree with Jacob. If they had just changed a few things, or even had the courage to say, "We're going to kill off some of these characters, but not because they're gay or transgender, but because they are up to naughty business at a camp," which is what happens, and I think in all these slasher movies that I've never seen.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a slightly more generous, probably a 1.5 out of 5. I think I would watch this over The Gray Man because I don't. Some of the colors were pretty. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just The Gray Man seems to be the embodiment of a bad movie for me. But no, it's a shame. I think maybe they were too scared to tackle the idea that you could kill off a gay character, and maybe they thought, oh well, we've have all these stories about trans people being murdered. We can't have a trans person or trans character murdered, but maybe they have just given the trans character more to do. I mean, obviously, the trans character here could shoot. I imagine that they were trying to aim to be heroic, but
Yeah.
instead, you have this kind of thing where, yeah, it's actually the murder is a kind of a cliche because you still have an angry lesbian. I'm assuming be the the murderer. I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a cliche. You're not helping your case if you're going to dive into cliches. So yeah, I'm going to be a little nicer. 1.5, 1.5 out of 5.
And final note on this film, just kind of like the marketing behind it and the idea behind it. It's very obvious that the reason why this film is on Peacock is because if they even tried to put this in movie theaters, it would bomb so bad it would make the entire community look bad, and they do that. So this is why you're getting these content movies. But it seems like maybe the people thought that the representation in front of the camera was more important than the story. And we've seen this with a lot of Hollywood productions over the years where they care more about, oh, we got black people in front of a camera, we got gay people in front of the camera. It's like, but what about the actual story? Because that's what people are actually paying money to see. Like they're trying to see either a good story or maybe there's going to be like a couple of like actors that they really like that are going to be like in the film and whatnot. But in this film, like I said, you present Kevin Bacon, who I mean, this is in 1990. Like his name doesn't really carry that much weight anymore as far as like being a box office star. And then outside of that, you have a bunch of no-name actors who you've never seen them in any movie or a TV show before this. You probably won't see them in any other movies and TV
Well,
shows after this.
you have Anna Klumsky.
Who? Sorry, who?
I think he's still taking the piss of my Kevin Bacon shot right there. I think that's what he's doing. So,
No.
but but yeah. So I mean, when you're in an industry that's controlled by progressives, you can't possibly have any good ideas. It's just the way that it's set up, and it's like, yeah, like you can't just put a bunch of gay people like in a film and be like, oh, people are gonna love this because clearly it's not. Like it's not even being. This film isn't even being well received within the people within this community, people who are gay and bi and trans and whatnot, because at the end of the day, the problems that we pointed out about this film are the same ones that they're pointing out about this film. It was boring. You had no character, you had no story, and then you promised a slasher film, but didn't kill anyone until like the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Well,
So
you did have a killing. You had a killing of a dog.
yeah, that was just so like weird and like out of place because
You know,
it was like that's
it's
the thing. Just real quick, I
yeah.
don't understand what was the point of killing the dog to prove like your manliness or whatnot. Because all I was thinking of, that scene in Kingsman where he's like forced them to like kill the dog, and they want to see if he actually would like go through it or not. That you go find out that the gun had blanks, like he wasn't actually going to kill the dog. But in this film, they just do it, and then like I have no idea like what they were trying to go for with that. Because I mean, yeah, if you murder a dog at a camp, like people are going to talk about that. Like you can't just get away with that. Like I don't understand like what they thought that whole scene was trying to accomplish. Go ahead,
Well, I
Rob.
just watched. Yeah, I just watched. I'm trying to remember of Mice and Men. You know,
Yeah,
and I had seen the remake that came out in the '90s with John Malkovich. So I knew about the scene with the dog, but I just saw that before watching this movie, and I was just like what do you
yeah.
why would you have that in there, if it's
Mhm.
not like some kind of like important plot point, or even if it's just like a reference to that, it's like it has no place. It was so weird.
Yeah. Because the threat of it is actually scarier than them actually doing it. Because if you wanted to like sell the threat of it, you'll be like, okay, he's forcing this character to shoot this dog, and then when the character finally does it because he gives in, he realizes that the gun is empty and whatnot. He just wanted to like torture the kid, see if he would actually do it because that's how mentally fucked up in the head he is. Like that's more of a psychological terror that you can portray like in a film like that. But instead, it's just like, no, we're just murdering dogs, and it's like, okay, we killed the dog. Everyone back to your bunkers. Last day at camp, guys. It's like, no, that's not how storytelling works. That's not.
No.
What guys?
Yeah. So they them not a good film is what we're saying. So
Yeah.
sadly we didn't get any decent movies this week. Probably the best movie was the Prey movie, and we didn't even give a full review to that one. So
Yeah.
I just go to show how it is. Unfortunately, next week, I mean, there's not much going on like at all. Like everything else is coming out and streaming. There is no big movies this week. So next week we actually won't be doing a review show on Monday night because I'm actually going to be doing Comic Division's stream next Monday night. So I'll give you a little bit more information about that. But we will be back in 2 weeks where we review the film Beast with Israel Elba. So I know there's some people here, some crazy people who are looking forward to that film. Just from what you've seen off the previews, I'm assuming you guys have been to the movie theaters. What do you guys think about that film? Just early thoughts.
It looks like the Ghost in the Darkness on a much lesser budget.
Yeah.
And with Idris Elba trying to save his family. Look, it could be good. I don't have high hopes for it, but I'll go watch it. I'll go watch a guy wrestle a lion.
Yeah, big ass giant cat for a couple hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll watch that. So yeah, so that's the schedule. We'll be back in 2 weeks to review that film. But let me go ahead and just give everyone a chance to kind of promote what they got coming up. Rob, is there anything that you want to shield to the people coming up? Is there a new YouTube channel that you're working on? Any kind of like content or anything of that nature?
No.
Just trying to like nudge you into like making content now.
Yeah, no. You know what? I'm actually going through kind of a life change right now because I might be moving soon. But
Oh,
I will say that I plan on getting a little bit more serious with basically how I approach movies and movie watching, because really the how much I do it, I should be writing more, even if
yeah.
it's just Twitter threads, even if it's just give my general thoughts about each movie I watch. So look, keep an eye out for that. You can follow my Twitter, but I'm also going to be getting reviews out pretty soon. So I would say September. Just look out for that. I will have stuff out regularly, but yeah. So just keep an eye out. There's my Twitter. Check it out.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, like Culture Casino always talks about that no one watches more movies than me, and I keep telling them it's like, yeah, Rob is the only difference between me and Rob is that Rob doesn't actually like write and like video his reviews, even though he should with the amount of
Yeah.
movies that he watches. I mean, I think he watches what about 9, 10 movies a week now, or somewhere
I think it's
around that
11
number.
on a weekend. I think he watches
Yeah,
Yeah,
11 on a
sometimes
weekend.
it's more like 15 a week because I try to get 4 or 5 in during the week, and then I get about
yeah.
10 in during the weekends.
Yeah, you got to
Yep.
figure out a way to monetize that, whether it's
Yep.
professional reviews or YouTube or something like that. But yeah,
Yep.
you sitting on the gold mine there, just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah.
Someone who does do written reviews occasionally, once in a while, maybe. Rick, where can they find more of you?
I've been working quite hard actually on trying to write as many reviews for August during the TCM Summer Under the Stars. I like to
Oh
write
yeah,
a review about uh, not every not every star. in August. That's just way too much. I did that one year. I was exhausted by the end, but I try to plug in as many and try to write reviews also for the films that I do see that are not related to Summer Under the Stars. And yeah, I'm just working on that, working on trying to get healthy again, trying to keep up with the Chihuahuas more. So yeah, just trying to make those plans. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen a single trailer for Beast. So we'll see how this goes. But that's pretty much my spiel.
Well, I can tell you it is in theater, so you won't have to like watch it on some like shady streaming service. This
I
time
paid
around, so.
legitimate. That's why you owe me $5.40, and I had to join Peacock.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll guess I'll just cash app you $5 sometime in the near future, or not, or maybe not. Maybe I just won't pay at all. We'll see. But
At least get me a Whataburger.
I mean that I can do. I can get you like a gift card for Whataburger, and then we just be square. How about that?
All right, I can live with that. I can live
All
with that,
right then.
but I'll just have to cancel it because I don't like streaming.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, so just letting you guys know things that are going on with the channel. We're gonna be making some changes in the next couple of weeks. Okay, guys, an update. Friday night we're gonna be doing the bar room. It's probably gonna be the last one we're gonna be doing on a Friday night, and then in a couple of weeks we'll move the bar room to Tuesday night. Because obviously I need to open up my weekends. I got some new events coming up, especially with football season that I need to take care of. So we're gonna be changing a couple of things around. This coming Saturday night, we're going to be watching the 1981 film Nighthawks, which is a film that Cold Classic Cage has been annoying me with for almost 2 months now. We finally get to watch it, so we'll throw that movie on there. And then, like I said, next Monday night, we won't be doing the movie night because one, there is no new movies coming out next week, so it's just an easy week to take off for us. And then I will be on Comics Divisions YouTube stream. We'll be doing Yelling Apart Cars. That's next Monday night. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back to review the movie Beast. So we will take a little bit of a break, but we will be back in our normal schedule coming up pretty soon here. So just letting you guys know. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and like the video. I may also subscribe to Society Reviews on Twitch and Society Movies on Twitter as well if you want to find everywhere that we're posting these reviews. So any final words for you guys before we wrap this one up and send it home?
Nope.
Not everyone speak at once. All right, then. Well, we'll go ahead and cut this one off here tonight. So, for everyone who joined us tonight, I know there was a lot of people. Duke Nukem, Spencer, who should be editing my piece right now. I'm not talking about the Ezra Miller one. I'm talking about the Degrassi one. You should get on that as fast as possible. Cold Classic Cage, who joined us tonight. Oz, who also joined us. And I think I already gave a shout out to Duke Nukem. So everyone who joined us in the chat tonight, thank you for spending our Monday nights with us. You could be watching wrestling, which is terrible right now. So you definitely made the right choice. And until then, we will see you in a couple of weeks. Or if you're joining us in the bar room, just see us Friday night, episode 11 of the bar room. Till then, take care. We will see you later.